Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming to our panel for an hour to spend some time with us and fill the room. There's standing space and people sitting on the floor. That's wild. I got to start by continuing my trend. I've been taking Biggs all over the city, and so I need to have him landmark this moment.
He needs his moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. That'll be good for the audio listeners. But thank you all for coming. I'm Alex Damon from Star Wars Explained.
I'm Molly.
And these are our good friends, Ken and Joseph from ForceCenter podcast.
Hello.
Hello there. Hello there.
So we just wanted to spend an hour continuing the celebration, talking about the news that has come out because a lot has happened already. It's only day 2. But I just want to hear from everyone because we haven't had enough time to talk with Ken and Joseph yet. What's been your favorite thing so far?
Your Biggs pictures. And I want to acknowledge that I was inspired by Alex and Molly's pictures of their action figures. So I unboxed an Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I have been taking photos of him as well. So if you see something weird sitting on my beer, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just so you know. I took him to a pub last night, and a woman saw me taking a picture. The bartender saw me taking pictures with him, and she said, "Oh, you have a little man." And it was like she'd never seen an action figure before, and she didn't know what it was. Like, where'd you get that? How'd you make that? It was beautiful.
My favorite experience of just the con so far?
Yeah.
Being in London for the first time. Oh my God. I love it. Look, and I'll be honest, I'm just a dumb Yank, but I love it. I'm obsessed with it. Your money is prettier than ours. Your bottles of soda are shaped different than ours. It seems silly, but I'm having a lot of... On the tube, I was like, everyone looks like a sketch character from Monty Python. This is amazing. And I'm having a great time. No, this has been a wonderful city. We actually had fun last night. His wife, my fiance, Grace Sarah, we were here, and we got lost in the city, and it was fun. The tube stop, that's a thing, apparently. And we had to find our way back, and it was like a Jedi adventure.
It really was. We had to literally descend into darkness of an alley that was spelled differently. It was P-E-T-O, but it was... Should we go down that dark alley? What's it called? Pedo Lane. Yeah, sure. This will be fine. And it was. We emerged from the darkness, and we're happy to be here. The other thing that I want to say real quick, I know for maybe audio, this is an interesting adventure. This panel room is set up very oddly.
Yeah.
So a portion of the audience is directly in front of us. So I think we're going to have to spend this panel being like 89 Batman, Michael Keaton, and being sure to pivot with our entire bodies and acknowledge all of our friends over here.
Yeah, we have people directly to our right, all the way filling up this room. It's crazy. So
Well, we have a lot of people who didn't get in, so you all might be jumped afterwards out of pure jealousy.
I wish we had exclusive footage to show just to the people in this room, but we don't really. So
We are the exclusive footage.
I guess so. We're in 3 dimensions. We exist. I want to build off of what Ken said. I love the tube system and the buses. I've never nerded out over transportation so much, but I've really, really enjoyed it. Like we don't have that in Atlanta. It just bare bones. It's not even worth using. So it's really nice that I can go anywhere until it closes, I guess.
I mean, we're in Los Angeles. Los Angeles does remain open later, but I mean, public transportation, it's like good luck. Bring a knife and a shield and a Bible to pray, no, that's been part of the fun. It's I know I sound like a dumb tourist, but this is a fantastic city.
Molly, what's been your favorite thing so far?
I mean, same, just being in London for the first time, exploring the city. We stayed in Soho for a couple of days before this, and it was really cool. And I like that at the bars, if you order a Red Bull vodka, they give you the whole Red Bull. It's great.
That's true.
Yeah. But, we've met so many cool people here from, all over the world, which is crazy and so cool.
I think that's a great thing to point out is that being in Europe allows a lot more people that we wouldn't normally get to see show up, and we get to say hi to so many new faces. So that's always my favorite part of Celebration, is going around and just getting to hang out and talk Star Wars with everyone in person. It's always the best.
Yeah, we're happy to meet people we wouldn't normally be able to meet, and in person, be taught how to properly pronounce your names because it's so much easier in person.
Well, let's talk about Star Wars. I mean, that's what we're here to do. And I think we have to open it up. And I'm so excited to hear your thoughts on this, because I usually boot up your podcast right away, and I haven't had time. But I want to talk about the movie news.
Well, there's
first.
a listen we didn't get today.
I want to talk about the movie news first.
Yeah.
So how is everyone in the room feeling about the announcement of 3, not just movies, but movie eras?
There you go.
I am so, I mean, the number one thing I'm thrilled about this entire weekend, the tube system, full Red Bulls, those are great. But Rey Skywalker. I'm so thrilled by, if it was just, we're not going to tell you anything else, but Daisy Ridley is returning as Rey Skywalker, I would be thrilled. If they hadn't even told us that part and said, 15 years after the rise of Skywalker, we're going to be dealing with the new Jedi Order, I would be thrilled. If it was just the director standing up there and saying, this is going to be a tale about oppression, about people who don't want the Jedi, the guardians of peace and justice, to even exist, I would be thrilled. But you put all 3 of those together, and they're just layers of excitement. It's not just Rey coming back, it's Rey helping to build, or building a new Jedi Order. And then a really interesting idea, not that somebody's trying to destroy an ancient order, but that somebody is trying to stop something good and right from starting at all, feels really fresh and interesting to me. So that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, I'm right there with Joseph on that. We can talk about the Mangold of it all. I'm really excited to have James Mangold and his energy in Star Wars. I'm so looking forward to Indy 5. Very excited about Filoni and that opportunity, but I'm with you. This idea of going forward into the future, and yeah, it makes sense. Rey would be there, and there's questions about other characters, and we'll get there in time. I think you said something on our episode today. I'll be patient about the Finn question. I'll be patient about that. There's ways to do it, but there's to have this powerful character. We're big about generational change on ForceCenter. Maybe some of you know that. We look up to Rey as a character, but when I'm walking down this hallway and I see a 5-year-old girl dressed as Rey, it just makes me so excited that she's going to continue to see that character grow up and do something else and continue that story. It means a lot. It means a lot to me as a Star Wars fan. And to have Daisy, who went through a lot, all of them went through a lot. Kelly Marie Tran and John Boyega taking just absolute horrendous barbs from the world for someone like Daisy to be like, I'll come back maybe if there's something, and for there to be something, that makes her go, yeah, there's more to explore in this story. I'm excited. And to Joseph's thing, I agree that it isn't necessarily, there's better not be any goddamn Yuzon Vong, but...
They're fine, Ken. I like the Yuzon Vong.
Don't wait till we get started on the Heir to the Empire. No, I like that the idea of light and life reforming and someone in the galaxy going, oh no, we can't have that. That's an amazing conflict to me.
Yeah, I'm excited with the format of which they're introducing these films, because we were maybe expecting one movie announcement or a trilogy, but we're getting kind of a trilogy. It's like a different way of putting a trilogy out. We're getting like the past, present, and future of Star Wars, and I'm incredibly interested to see how that pans out.
Well, and we don't know what's going to come directly next, but we've been debating where do we want things to go, and my whole thing has been just my preference is I've wanted to go into the past more than I've wanted to go into the future, so I love that they're going to be like, hey, no matter what flavor of Star Wars you like, we got you. Like, you like the Filoni Favreau Mandoverse? Here is that. Do you want to go into the future? We have you, sequel fans. Do you want to go into the past? Like, it's not the Old Republic. It's 25,000 years in the past, which I'm like, I can't wait to see Dawn of the Jedi. That's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah. That's going to be like, oh, yeah. That feels like a lot of pressure for that movie to just show us the very first Jedi, how it all started.
And I'm already going like, oh, are we going to go to the wellspring of life? Are we going to see the Mortis gods or any of that? That's probably too far down the road, but there's so many potential there, or so much potential there. And I love that he described it as like a biblical epic, Ben-Hur, 10 Commandments or something like that. That just feels like a new energy for Star Wars as well.
I just want to see that Prime Jedi sitting for their portrait as an artist makes the mosaic on the floor.
Yeah, we'll probably see Octo, like way back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, this was an announcement of a Caretaker's film, I feel. I think we're going to see the origin of the Lanai, the first messy Jedi, and these fish people come out of the sea. It's like, no, we're going to clean that.
One goes to Caretaker, the other one goes to Porg. I think we should just go that way.
We'll finally see that deleted scene where they're like having a party.
They're doing the party.
Yeah.
And then some Jedi comes and interrupts everything, and they're like, oh, you're ruining everything. I also love just the idea of a date. One of my favorite tweets I think I've ever put out was in the middle of live tweeting. They pulled up the timeline, and I was like, oh, that's my love language. I just love seeing a timeline. And then they kept expanding it out. That was so fun, the way that they revealed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the timeline was really great, not to really drive home the point of we're going to these extremes in the timeline. But also, I think one of the big challenges with the movies is I think a lot of us as fans, back when Disney first started, we had the continuation of the Skywalker saga, and then we had this fun option of, there might be these kind of one-off, fun, more genre-focused films, and then Disney Plus kind of happens. So then there's that question of what are movies? Now with Disney Plus especially, movies feel like they need to be bigger, and I feel like without really underlining it, they basically just told us, we've picked 3 eras where it can be a big galactic conflict, where there is elbow room to have huge stakes and have a huge conflict. So I thought that they kind of got around one of the questions of how to make the movies feel like events and feel even bigger than Disney Plus in a great way.
No, I love everything about that, and I love that we finally get to this point where we got the news. There's been a lot of rumors, and there's always going to be news stories and chasing the clicks and all those kind of things, and I think now we can discuss what actually is happening going forward. And that doesn't mean anything's a guarantee. That's not how Hollywood works. Just because someone is in talks does not mean a movie is happening. And I've been really grumpy the last couple months of just, I think the news, the rumors, and the selling of rumors as facts has been weaponized, and it's been weaponized against, I always say, I don't need to defend Disney, I don't need to defend Lucasfilm, these are billion-dollar companies with a long standing, but I'm here to defend the fans who just want to see what's next, and just want to enjoy what's next, and to have a lot of the news weaponized over the last few months has been disappointing. Some people I used to work with, and to just actually be here and to be like, this is what we got, and this is what we're going to get, and this is, and the announcement was confident to me. And Jim Mangold ain't gonna let anything drop off the table. It seems like he's got that we're gonna take it to the finish line energy.
Yeah, that's something that I was hoping for, that if they were gonna do movie news, I didn't want them to just say, so-and-so's working on a movie, and be like, okay, like, I'm so glad that they came out and said that this is the plan, and this director is doing this, and it's just something to start thinking about and getting excited for. Yeah. Love that. Well, we haven't really discussed where the Mando-verse is headed, so how do we feel about that announcement? What do we think we might see in that?
Who's excited that Filoni's getting a film?
Yeah. My table could collapse at any moment.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about it because I think it maybe helps us look at the Mandoverse shows and maybe build some, not expectations, because I don't think we should be overly attached to our expectations, but knowing that we're building to a big cinematic event that's not necessarily, they didn't say it's the end of the Mandoverse, but it's building to it. Then it's like, every time we've been teased with Thrawn, we're sort of like, Mandalorian Season 3, fight with Thrawn. Oh, Ahsoka, that's where she's going to take down Thrawn. And maybe she will, but knowing that there's this big movie event we're building to helps me approach each season of the Mandoverse of, it's telling its little chapter of the story, and we don't need to expect every season of the Mandoverse to be like, the big fight, because we're heading to the big fight in the movie.
Yeah. I'm a little worried that because this feels like the Avengers of Star Wars, that it's like, okay, what are we going to do after that? Does that add some pressure because of what Marvel's done as far as like taking all these movies and like culminating them into one big event?
I think that's an interesting point. Yeah, I do wonder if that'll be kind of the end of the era. It doesn't have to be. I'm sure, like, the New Republic story will keep on going, just the same way. We'll talk about the High Republic in a little bit, but they have announced, like, Phase 3 ends in 2025, but this is just the beginning of the High Republic era. So I think that there's still some wiggle room that, let's say Thrawn is the big bad and they take him out. They can keep those stories going, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the Man in the Cowboy Hat to get this opportunity to keep the story going and take it into a bigger direction. I took a little stab at Heir to the Empire. I have a complicated history with Timothy Zahn's work, but I think there's so many great characters there. And what I really trust Dave, above all, to really deliver the themes. Star Wars is simply about hope versus fear, hope in fear, hope in the darkness, family, all those simple things. You boil it down to that, and it becomes a powerful story. So as crazy as it might be, Thrawn here, this, that, that's going to be fun, man. But even some of the stuff we saw in Ahsoka today, I got unexpectedly emotional. And it's not the first time I've cried at Star Wars, but like, there's just something. It just grabs your heart, and that of all the things that Dave brings to the table, and all the people and he gave so much wonderful credit to people today. Henry Gilroy, who had so much to do with establishing Clone Wars, Jennifer Corbett in Bad Batch. It still drives us crazy that people forget her name. He just knows how to deliver the emotions of Star Wars so well, and that's what I'm excited for his film.
Yeah, and I get the Avengers parallel. It's hard not to look at,
Sure.
The levels of Avengers too, as they build. The first film was this kind of culmination, but then really building to the Infinity War and Endgame. I can see a world where everybody kind of comes together, because they described it as the New Republic's showdown with this Imperial remnant. So I can see it as, hey, maybe Ahsoka's the main character. Maybe a New Republic person we haven't met yet is the new character, and Din and Bo-Katan and the Mandalorians show up to help, but they're not the main character. They have this adventure, and then they can go on having their story. So I can see it possibly structured like that. It doesn't seem like it has to be an end to the Mandoverse. And there is that part of me that the Avengers, particularly that scene in Endgame with the portals, if you're a fan of MCU, I think it's beautiful and powerful, but it has now been memed to the point where, like, I do go like, oh, I worry about that. But then I actually picture it. Like Ahsoka landing, and then Din landing, and then Zeb showing up, and then Boba Fett going, who the hell's that? I've never met that guy. What's this about? But picturing all of the characters actually coming together for a cause is exciting, even though I can kind of almost parody it in my head. I'm still excited about it as well.
And Grogu's leading the charge.
Yeah. They can all come out in the world between worlds, one at a time, and
And Grogu has to squeak a little.
Yeah.
And then people are like, he's on your left. That's what that was.
Yeah.
Someone put out a fake page of their, like, spec script of basically that scene, and every character that comes up is more and more ridiculous. Bo-Katan's like, you have my Darksaber, and Din, you have my jetpack, and Meeber Gascon says something, and Zero the Hutt says, you have my Cajun gumbo.
Jackson leaps in,
Well, they can all go party at my new favorite character, Captain Bombardier's house.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Well, I think we've danced around it a little bit, but it's a good time to shift into Ahsoka, because the trailer was released publicly, but then today they dropped some extra footage. Did anyone in the room get to see that? So if you were in there, we got some good announcements. We got one good brief look at the Grand Admiral. Ken, I'm going to throw it to you first. How are you feeling with your...
I used to quote, this is why I have a wonderful fiance now, but this is why I was single well into my 20s. I used to quote Grand Admiral Thrawn, okay? I love Grand Admiral Thrawn, but at some point, it became too sterile for me. It was too clinical. It was too... I couldn't get inside his head, which was the design of a lot of the Zahn's book. Joseph and I have talked about that, a lot of the canon books. So I have this push and pull with Thrawn, but I'm thrilled that he's back. As much as I kind of poke fun at that era, like I always say, like that Dave was on the panel. He was right today. Like walking in a mall in 1991 and looking and going, whoa, Star Wars isn't dead. There's a book about it. Was big and huge, and the characters it created. I always say, I don't know, Mara Jade might not have been my favorite, but you know what? someone fell in love with Star Wars because of Mara Jade, so I protect that right of them to have their perspective. So I'm excited that Dave is like, yeah, we got some stories to tell, and to see Thrawn, to see Lars Mikkelsen finally confirmed that the brothers Mikkelsen are well in the Lucasfilm family.
I hope
now.
they're partying tonight.
They are. They are. And Ewan and Mary Elizabeth Winstead are down the hall. Should we hang out with the Mickelsons? I don't know. They seem a lot. Yeah. So I'll answer. I'll bring it home here. I'm excited to see what Dave's going to do with the character. And he's spoken to Timothy Zahn. He wants to get it right. It's going to be interesting. And I've loved him in Rebels, so I'm excited now.
I have an important follow-up question. Did you quote Thrawn in the context of trying to date people?
No. One of my favorite quotes of his was, "If you have a problem, eliminate the problem." He said that at one point in one of the books, and that was the philosophy I carried through life.
Tinder bio,
Yeah.
I think. I mean.
Yeah, it's great. My senior art project was to take a quote from Moff Gergerod and put it into calligraphy. I didn't have a lot of friends.
Yeah. It is beautiful. I love seeing the blue man, the mean blue man. I was really happy with the casting announcement for. I think he's got the cheekbones. He's got the just the presence. I had been excited about it because I just do love his soft, silky voice. I love that Thrawn is absolutely terrifying, but he also reminds me of like some really scary managers that I had when I worked at Kinko's Copy Shop. Where they'd taken like management tactics and like speak softly and make your employees lean in so they know you're more important than them. Like, oh, it makes Thrawn so scary to me on multiple levels. But I think that Lars Mikkelsen just had so much presence. A lot of people clearly were in the panel today. He didn't. I feel like there are actors who are really good at playing conventions and they got their jokes and they're really big. And then their actors are just like, hey, I'm an actor. I'll try to answer questions. And he seemed to just kind of like stand there looking to me like a beautiful Irish farmer in his sweater and his cap and just command attention, wondering what he's going to say or do. And he wasn't even playing Thrawn. He was just being himself. So that made me really excited.
I love that he just came out, like, sat down and just said, like, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. That was really nice. Yeah. Just seems like a cool dude.
Yeah, I'm excited. I do wonder, for anyone who has read the newer Thrawn books, he's written not as much as a villain in those. So how do you guys think?
That's my problem with Thrawn. He's a bad man.
Also, I need at least 4 or 5 perhapses.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
perhaps
he says
constantly.
that a lot in the books.
Yeah.
Perhaps. But yeah, like, how do you guys think they will make him feel like the big bad when the book readers have really gotten to know him a lot more intimately?
I think it's all about motivation. I think for me, his motivation at this point is a little bit up for grabs because it might be a very direct adaptation of Heir to the Empire, but obviously some things have changed. So much of what we were introduced to in the first Thrawn trilogy that dealt with his dealings with the Empire is, I'm going to go kind of infiltrate this thing and work with this thing, and I care about the Chiss, right? So he, at least for those books, to me, it wasn't that he was an Imperial true believer. It was that he wanted something out of this for the benefit of his own people, which is what makes him, I think, sympathetic. I think he's still a villain. I'm going to make that argument. I'm going to sidetrack myself with villain discussion. I know a lot of people like love Thrawn and are sympathetic to him. I think there's a difference between being sympathetic and saying it's okay. I think for me, it's great that he wants to protect his people. It's great that he's aware the Empire is a huge power. But to me, Star Wars is about choices. And his choice is, I'm worried about my family, so I'm going to help this other institution beat up somebody else's family that isn't threatening my family at all. But I'm going to justify it. I mean, he is helping the Empire do atrocities to people who are not threatening the Chiss in any way. So that's my take, is that it is about those different. Just like I'm sympathetic to Vader, I'm sympathetic to Ben Solo, but their choices make a difference. And I'm really excited to see how they're going to approach Thrawn in this series, in the Ahsoka series. how clear they're going to make his motivation, how much we're going to be able to understand why he would make that bad choice, but still make it clear in that Star Wars way, he's choosing to brutalize people. That's a bad choice.
Yeah, the ForceCenter has a reputation of being real positive, and we just love Star Wars. And then occasionally Joseph and I sync up on something we don't like, and people Discord us going, oh, man, what are you doing to me, man? We have an issue with Thrawn and that, what you're talking about. Like, people will say, but he's so smart, he studies cultures. I'm like, to learn how to destroy them and use it against them. And Star Wars, I will die on the hill. There's no gray Jedi. There's no gray areas in Star Wars. There's transitions and choices through the era, through those emotions. But it is about hope versus fear. It is your take about the Mandalorians. Are you a vision of death or are you a vision of salvation? And maybe this can help establish that a little bit, because Dave's very aware of that kind of stuff, without a doubt. The man in flannel has taught him well. But I'm curious about it. Like, I'm not fighting it. I'm excited. Make me understand, or make me go, yeah, he's evil to the core.
Molly, you often like the villain perspective. Are you excited to be sympathetic to Thrawn and say, like, crush Ahsoka and take her mantra?
No, I mean, I definitely enjoy him more as a villain, because he is that, like, creepy, kind of soft-spoken, just... He's so methodical about everything he does. I definitely prefer him as a villain, but I know, like, even Timothy Zahn might argue that, like, he's not that bad.
Well, I see Thrawn as, like, starting out as very sympathetic. They always treat him as very pragmatic in the Ascendancy books especially. But then he does come to the known galaxy, and he makes a deal with the literal devil to join their ranks to make his goals more likely. And I think that can only corrupt him. So even if he was pretty good at the start, even though in the Ascendancy books he was like, oh, I absolutely would have used that super weapon if I had to. Like, that's always been a part of him. But I think by the time we get to this time period where we see him, I think there will be room for Timothy Zahn to come in afterwards. I'm sure he will, and write another trilogy of Thrawn books to bridge that gap or something, and we'll learn more about his motivations and stuff. But I think for the sake of the show, he's just going to be new Imperial big bad that will be easily recognizable to people like my parents.
I hope that Timothy Zahn writes another Thrawn book, and I hope it's a first-person, like, Thrawn's memoir, and then we can get it as an audiobook read to us as creepy ASMR by Lars Mikkelsen.
Let's talk about the other two villains that were introduced in the trailer, and they were shown up on stage. Balin, I believe, and Shin. They seem that Dave wouldn't tell us anything. They were like, "What can we tell you?" And Dave said, "Absolutely not." So, I don't. Molly, again, you were the dark side fan at the table for the most, like, more than us, I think. So, what are you excited about for those two characters?
Well, I wasn't expecting to see two dark side red lightsaber wielding characters in Ahsoka. So I'm very excited to figure out where they came from, why they're there. Are they with Thrawn, or do they have their own motivations? But I think I'm a big fan of your wild theory about who they are.
I don't think it's right. That's if you watched our video about this yesterday, like,
I didn't until you listened to our podcast.
In the middle of it. In the middle of it, I had this, like, weird realization, because, like, there's one part that I was like, is that the world between worlds? And I was like, hold on a second. Old dude's Darth Bane, young girl's Darth Santa. They got pulled in from the past, and they're in the future now. And then I, like, quickly talked myself out of it. I was like, no, that's real dumb. That's very dumb. I'm so glad they said their names.
I just love that, like, anytime the world between worlds gets brought up in a Q&A or a live stream, Alex is like, oh,
no,
God.
I'm immediately like, that's not how it works. You can't use it that way.
But
and then
maybe the world between worlds is like Ellis Island, and to go through it, they ended up having to simplify and change their names.
That's the second there was something that I kind of wanted, I was like, the world between worlds could work that way. It might.
That's a beautiful wild theory. My wildest theory is that they're Force users, obviously, because we see Balin Ray Stevenson do a little push there, Force push. But I speculation, hope. I think it would be really cool if they were dark side users from the unknown regions. that Thrawn was in league with, and somebody who had kind of a different perspective on the dark side and a different heritage than Sith that he was manipulating. I really like that in Rebels. They do such a good job of putting Thrawn over. He is pretty unstoppable. The only 2 times he gets messed up is when there's Force-related things that he can't predict, the Bendu and the Purgle. I'm sure wherever Thrawn's been, he's been like, the Bendu, the Purgle. I have Force problems. I can't see when those chess pieces are on the board. I need me some Force people.
I like that idea that he would seek out education in his time absent from the known galaxy, wherever he's been, that he's like, I need to learn about this thing. I think that's a really cool idea.
That's what makes Thrawn dangerous. I'll say something positive about the character I used to quote in high school. I love his theory. Yours isn't too crazy,
It's pretty crazy.
Eventually, we're going to get those names in Star Wars, this era. I love it. I was surprised that a red lightsaber of any kind is showing up, even if it's someone who just is worshiping the past, stuck in the past, wants to bring back the past, or sees a chance, a vacuum in the galaxy, and particularly a vacuum with the amount of Jedi in the galaxy at this time. It was kind of, oddly enough, it was the part of the trailer that did kind of get me emotional, as well as Lars tearing up. That always gets you emotional when an Irish farmer's crying. No, but Baylan and Shin, right? Ivanka Sakno and Ray Stevenson just had such a presence about them on stage. And it just is that fight of good and evil, and why I tune every week into Star Wars, right? And I was very excited for a continuation of Rebels, very excited for a search for Ezra, very excited for maybe someone rides a Purgle and goes, yeah, and we do all that stuff. But there's just this something about that image in Star Wars. That's why we talked about it on the playgrounds. That's why we're here at a convention. And that got me kind of emotional, seeing that red blade out.
Speaking of Purgle, we got to see one also today in the exclusive Ahsoka panel, which was wild.
Yeah, I think that the big extra footage was Thrawn's face. We got a shot of a Purrgil, and then there was a couple extra shots of Lothal, which was really cool.
And did we get Sabine with Ezra's lightsaber?
Oh yeah, Sabine using Ezra's lightsaber.
That was cool.
I also wanted the music in both trailers was great, and the other thing I tweeted out in all caps was that Kevin Kiner's doing the score, which I'm so happy about.
Yeah, absolutely.
About time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it just makes sense, like Dave said.
Yeah, that's so exciting. I have one last wild Baylan theory. I think Shin might be a little bit too young for this theory. But what if Baylan was somebody who wanted to be a Sith and tried to apprentice with Darth Sidious? And Darth Sidious was like, nah.
One of the
Get out of here.
regrets.
He's like, well, Sidious is gone now. Anybody can be a Sith. So I will be. I don't need his permission anymore.
If we're looking for parallels to the Thrawn trilogy, he could be the new Jorah Sabayoth, and Shin,
Get out of here
Shin
with that.
could be
Get
the
out of
new-
here right now.
She could be the new Mara Jade. Someone that could come around, like
As long
Baylan
as
could stay
Luke isn't here, I'm okay with it.
Ahsoka will be the clown.
there. What about Grogu?
Yes, yeah.
Little
That'll be
army.
Because that just means 2 Grogus on my screen. I'm good with that.
The more the merrier.
Let's shift over to the High Republic era and the Acolyte, because we just had a panel about that today, which was great and had some fun reveals in it. But also, I think the Acolyte footage that we've seen, of all the footage that's been shown so far, that's what has me the most hyped. So
How many people by applause, how many people had a chance to see the trailer?
Some people are shaking their heads. So Joseph and I will reenact the footage right now.
We won't hurt ourselves at all. We can do wire work like the star of the Matrix, no problem.
that's a great point. Like, speaking of the Matrix, we had Carrie-Anne Moss and all the kung fu, and just those opening shots of the fighting, like using the Force as kung fu, felt so cool.
It was literally like Matrix and Star Wars had a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, Leslie Headland, I have loved almost everything she said about, well, everything she said ever, but about this project in particular. But you can really feel that, like, Leslie Headland, like, hung out in bars talking with her friends about how awesome The Matrix was in Obi-Wan versus Maul in exactly 1999. And she's like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that.
She was great at the High Republic panel. They talked about the publishing and basically told us how Phase 2 was going to wrap up soon. Phase 3 will start in the fall and go until spring of 2025. So still a lot of High Republic ahead of us. But then at the end, they had Leslie Headland come out, and she was just so generous and grateful to all the work that all the authors had done to build up this era. And she talked about how the Thrawn books and all of the other books and the RPGs like that kept her fandom going when there was no Star Wars. So I love just hearing how much she loves the publishing world and wants to honor it, and especially the High Republic. And then they announced that Vernestra Rowe from the books is going to be in the show, which was sick.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was like the big thing. I'm really glad that they saved some High Republic stuff for just like all the diehard High Republic fans. But they had an image of her up on screen. She's got a shaved head and the Mary Allen tattoos all over. She looked great.
Oh, no, a lightsaber whip?
No light whip yet.
Oh,
yet.
boo.
But I mean, they're not going to give everything away.
Yeah, I know. It just turns into a whip, right? There's like a switch on it.
Yeah, it can go either way.
Yeah. Well, something about the Acolyte that I love, and actually in all the footage that they've shown us so far, lots of aliens. Mm-hmm. And they look really, really good. Like, I'm very excited that they're including more and more of that, because that was a big complaint for Andor, right? That people wished that there were more alien species in there.
Yeah, a lot of people miss the pulpy side of things, and I feel like this, from the footage we've seen, like 2 minutes, it feels like a really good blend of both. Like, it felt serious, but it kept that aspect of it, where it's like, but it's also very weird.
Yeah, for those who haven't had a chance to see it yet, I can't wait for you to see the footage. It looks just gorgeous. It looks cinematic. I love the boundary pushing technology of the volume. I think it's getting better and better and better, but it just, the Acolyte shot on location seems like most of it. I'm sure the volume is used in some stuff, who knows, but like, it just looks so good. It's my favorite thing of Celebration so far was that. And I'm a big fan of Leslie Headland, and I want us to protect her as Star Wars fans as she goes out larger into the world, and a lot of angry guys in cars on YouTube channels are going to have a problem with her. And she's strong enough and probably doesn't need our help, but we need to protect her and what she's putting out into this thing. The cast is incredible. The story. I even have some of the things she said. This is a villain's perspective, and here I am up and going, no, Star Wars is about good and bad. To me, this is not a Darth Plagueis story. This is a villain's perspective. As she says, it's schools of thought versus lone warrior. The war is of a spiritual nature. This is about power and who is allowed to use it. That's some big, giant Star Wars stuff mixed in with, it's a samurai film. She listed all the things there, the fighting. I can't wait, even my own fiance, I can't wait for her to see it. She's a trained broadswords fighter. I'm like, you can't imagine the fight. You have Carrie-Anne Moss and doing Force Matrix, like, oh my God. And it was just beautiful stuff. So.
Yeah.
What did you both think of the pitch that Leslie said? It's Frozen meets Kill Bill, which I think is really interesting and cool.
Well, because Alex, you brought up the story of Frozen is about someone who has this immense power and isn't sure what to do with it, and is kind of like wavering with that. So
discovering it and finding out what she can and can't do,
Yeah.
and like which way is Elsa gonna go? Is she gonna be a supervillain, or is she gonna be a hero?
I'm so excited for that aspect of it. I like Kill Bill too.
It really, one of the things that I was thrilled by with it is it did look like Andor with lightsabers, just visually. It looked so great, but also just kind of the confirmation that it was like all Jedi and people breaking away from the Jedi in dark ways. Yeah. All lightsabers, all Jedi all the time. And I've still been wondering, how is it going to bridge the gap sort of between the High Republic, where the Jedi are kind of firing on all cylinders, to my take on the prequels is not ever that the lesson is that the Jedi are bad. To me, it's always that the Jedi have these very high ideals that are hard to meet. They give in to fear, and they start compromising on their ideals because of fear. It's easier to cling to rules. So that's always been the way that I have interpreted and enjoyed it. And that quote that Ken just read seems to me about them saying, okay, we went through a lot in this High Republic era, I doubt they call it that because it sounds like what are we in the Low Republic? But if they went through a lot and are saying we're kind of out of fear locking down to our rules and being more rigid about who is allowed to use power, and in their glory days they're like, hey, if you don't want to be a Jedi, so be it, go on your way, but we're not even going to take your lightsaber. We're not going to tell you not to be you. We're not going to tell you not to use your power. Right. And if this is a story of the Jedi are kind of locking down and saying, no, you can't even, we're so desperate to protect the galaxy, we're starting to control people in a way that drives them to make dubious choices. That's so exciting to me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And again, going to all the things she said, the cast is wonderful to have Amanda Stenberg out there dressed as Padme. It was just such a great vibe. Can't wait.
Leslie actually talked about that in the High Republic panel and talking about how this show takes place after the publishing side of things, and she wanted to bridge that gap and kind of show how they went from their most idealistic into what happens in the Phantom Menace. So I wonder if we're going to get a transition from like the gold and white robes, which looked great, into just the more like this is what Jedi look like across the board.
Yeah, you could probably have Yarl Poof going, Kalnaka, you get that fancy robe off. Caddy Monday or something. Yeah, and by the way, I mentioned, this does set the tone for someone like Plagueis and Palpatine. I totally get that, but I think she's dealing with bigger themes than just that rule of two stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting the impression that this will be a multi-season show that could change the characters drastically. I think that'll be really interesting. But I love the character design so far. Just all of it looked so interesting and cool. But I think there was one other show, just Skeleton Crew, we haven't touched on yet.
Yeah.
This is probably the one that I had the least to say when we were talking about it, but I really enjoyed it. And when they kept on harping on the Amblin stuff, showing that trailer, I was like, yep, we got flashlights in the woods. We got like...
You got a neighborhood shot. There's like a neighborhood, and it's like E.T.'s house. It's totally... Amblin vibe. It's great. Yeah.
There's a zoom in on like a skeleton that felt very Goonies.
Covered in cobwebs.
Yeah.
And
There's that shot where E.T. helped the kids float past the moon on their speeder bikes.
Yeah. It was spot on.
Yeah. Spot on.
No, I'm with you too, and this is one of those things of this is clearly aimed not even younger. It's aimed at a certain time of your life, and I think there's lessons for all of it. I mean, ain't no one going to talk bad about Nubs and Young Jedi Adventures in front of me, but the themes exist in all of these things, and Star Wars is about, as Star Wars continues to grow, soon, believe it or not, to approach 50 years, right, before we know it. As Star Wars continues to grow and different generations hop on the train, man, we need to keep opening that train door for more generations to come on and fall in love with Star Wars. Otherwise, we'll be in a warehouse out in Slough. Is that we can go out there instead of here at the XL Center? I know my David Brent. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm so excited for this series. And there's going to be something for all of us, I know, and I know you don't know that too, but it just seems like they nailed the tone of what they want to do. And plus Jude Law is sexy.
I think wonder and terror is definitely like something that kids have to face as they step into the world, but like we all do. Like Ken and I and our partners, when we decided to like go out into the center of London, my wife knows the tube system well, but she realized, a bunch of things are closed, and I think I know how to get us there. But we might just end up a place. And like, do you want to do that? We're all like, we're all up for adventure. Yeah. And because we did that, we had moments of absolute wonder. And then we were joking, but we did have kind of moments of terror of like, I don't think we can get home unless we actually descend into this dark alley in a city that we do not know. We can't hear anything but maybe a bell ringing somewhere in the distance. This is a place to go to be murdered. Let's go down there and see what we find.
Was there a spooky skeleton?
No, oddly, but Vane the pirate from Mando was there.
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere.
It's just true. Every time, in order to get something beautiful, you often have to push yourself through the terror. And I think it is absolutely for kids, but it is universal too.
Yeah, and I know this is repeated a lot, but George Lucas's Star Wars is for 12 years is I think sometimes misunderstood as it's not for kids. It's for kids who are about to become adults, and we're going to teach them about the lessons and challenges that are going to be before them. And guess what? I'm coming up on 47. I'm dumber than I was at 12. So I still have a lot of lessons to learn from Star Wars.
Star Wars is for 12-year-olds and adults who say, do I really need to leave the house tonight? It's for both of us.
There were also a lot of shots in the footage of what I'm assuming are the parents of these kids, which is an interesting point of view, both of kids this age, like 11, 12 years old, and their parents in Star Wars. Like, we don't see those points of view very often. They're just going to school. Parents are going to their 9-to-5 jobs, and I'm excited to see what that's like.
It feels like we're going to get a good look at what just normal everyday life might be like for normal everyday people in the galaxy. And
like an accountant or something.
Yeah.
Like, what are they up to?
And they had that shot of don't go to our neighbor's house, and it just said the Carnes, and it's Cyril.
Edie Carnes, she has some weird opinions. Don't go talk to her.
I feel like they're still holding something back that will contextualize the show differently because it is part of the Mandoverse, right? Favreau is producing it. It's set in the New Republic era. It's another perspective on the New Republic. There's some Jude Law reveals. But I still think there's some element to the show that we don't know yet that will make us all go, this is how it really fits into the Mandoverse. Besides that pirate.
Yeah. I mean, that seems to be the trend when they release trailers. Like, teasers is about the tone and the feel, and then they're going to give us a story trailer more closer to the end of the year, the release. I guess this was just kind of footage. It wasn't even a released teaser, so there's definitely more to see. But the Vane inclusion from The Mandalorian, I'm like, yeah, okay, it's definitely connected. The pirates are fun characters. I really do like Vane, so I'm excited about that.
And we saw Jude Law.
Yeah, and he's a Force user?
He's a Jedi, question mark?
Yeah.
Maybe?
That was the last kind of question of the trailer, was like, oh, you're a Jedi? And he doesn't say yes or no.
Yeah, he just has the whole hood down, like, hello there moment without the hello there.
He said, hey, y'all. And that's the new version.
Yeah.
The next line might be him saying, magnets!
I was kind of bummed that they announced his name and it wasn't Lor Santeca.
Did they announce
I was on the Santeca trail.
You know, did they announce his name?
I thought they did.
I don't remember.
No, I don't know if they did or not. It just seems less that he's Lor
If he's using
Santeca
the
than
Force,
before.
then I think it's less likely.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Well, we have about 10 minutes left. I'd love to just answer some questions. If anyone out there has one, raise your hand, and we'll just talk about what you want to talk about. You're the first brave soul. I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I don't think Thrawn was a fan of Palpatine so much. I don't think he
has a poster in his bedroom.
He definitely wasn't a fan of the Death Star and a lot of Imperial thinking.
Right.
So I could see him not wanting a resurgence of Palpatine and the Sith to come back. Probably wouldn't be his preference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the storytelling where the for lack of a better term, the bad guys kind of eat each other, right? They have a philosophy of dominance and strength is the best, and I think when you have that attitude, you're eventually going to try to be dominant over the person who used to be your ally 5 seconds ago. So that's what I'm really excited about of them pushing into any sort of first order, final order, Imperial remnant storytelling is getting into those conflicts as they vie for who's going to be the power and how and why and all that.
Yeah, for my money, and we did not see episode 7 of Mando. We decided to go get lost in London, but I know you have, and no spoilers for any stuff. But I know some of that stuff is going to start becoming more clear. I personally have never thought it's going to directly connect. I think it's about Moff Gideon's relationships to the Mandalorians, at least this section of the story, but clearly it's spinning out to something more. So I think we will get some of those answers. But to Joseph's point, we call it the Dooku face. Every bad guy, Moff Gideon's probably like, I'm going to clone super warriors, it's great. And then along comes, Palpatine's minions going, yoink, we're taking that. And it's that look that Dooku gives before his head's chopped off, like, this didn't work out for me, and I think that's kind of how I view every bad guy. So to your idea, yeah, it could absolutely collide, spin, and explode.
I wish there was different footage where the camera zooms in and Christopher Lee says, "I've made a terrible mistake."
Any other questions? I saw your hand go up there, a blue shirt.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, to that one, I don't know. I don't know if that will ever see the light of the day, unless it's Carson Teva just going around buying cool jackets. But
I'm in.
But that's the wonderful thing, right? This is why I keep saying it's a wonderful time to be a Star Wars fan. We have a channel with Star Wars on it all the time, and even there's something Dave said today on the panel where he was like, you know, I was looking at what they were doing on The Bad Batch, and you and I kept saying, yeah, that's because he created it, but Jennifer Corbett's building it out, so give her credit. And Dave does. But he said, they had so much fun, I wanted to go to do Tales of Jedi. And I think he sketched out the notes on a coffee, you know, on a napkin on a flight, right? So he can do that. So I think I've never agreed that there needs to be any kind of plan. There just needs to be ideas, and because ideas can spin off. So it could be that we get more need to go onto the ground of the New Republic for me.
Yeah, I think whatever that idea was, to me the important thing is I think they're going to do that New Republic storytelling. We're spending that time with Carson Teva. So for me, I try not to worry or wonder too much about what that show was, because I trust whatever the heart of it is going to either appear as a Rangers of the New Republic show, or it's going to be baked into all the other shows.
Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity to take elements and ideas from what that was going to look like and what that was going to be, and maybe fit them into other places like his movie.
Yeah, that's the vibe I get as well, that we just spent a decent amount of time with Carson Teva, and it was great because I love him and I love Paul Sun-Young Lee. So I think we might just see him and maybe Zeb and Trapper Wolf go off on adventures every once in a while. They'll just pop in and out.
Yeah.
I hope Zeb just keeps staying in the bar going, good luck.
Yeah. He can't
He
fit
just
in any
lives
ship
there.
cockpit. Like, what does he fly? It
A
can't
Zeb
be
wing.
anything.
They're gonna create it.
Yeah, he needs his own ship.
Oh, yeah, he didn't even picture that. He's probably just in a B-wing complaining about it all the time.
In the yellow jacket? I want Finn so bad.
Oh, yeah.
I want Finn, like, if you're gonna hint that he's a Jedi and a Force user in The Rise of Skywalker, like, so far the Lego specials have made it explicit,
Yeah.
and that's great. I want John Boyega to be on the screen with his own lightsaber, looking awesome, using the Force. Like, I want to see that very badly.
Yeah, I'd be thrilled if there was a Finn announcement, but the thing that really thrills me is that there's so much opening for Finn and for Poe. I love that they said explicitly, they didn't give us a ton of details, but they said this happens 15 years after The Rise of Skywalker. So they created all this room for the potential of other storytelling. So for me, I'm really hoping, like, even if Finn isn't in these films or Poe isn't in these films, maybe we get a mention of them, maybe even we don't, but that promise of the door being open, because we've left room for them. And I love the sequel trilogy, and I understand the way it was constructed, and it's always just kind of broken my heart. Like, we didn't leave enough room to play with the characters. So now we're creating that room for them.
Yeah, if he's not in it, I at least want to hear that they're happily married somewhere and living off in paradise.
Okay, yeah. Quickly for me, I absolutely love Finn and his tale of connection and growth in the sequel trilogy is tremendously valuable. Obviously, John Boyega has to get to a point where he wants to come back. He's still a Star Wars fan. He says it, and he said some pretty powerful things that I think maybe people at Lucasfilm understand more than they did then. And maybe if the story's right and the vibe is right, and he's ready to get back into the war zone, so to speak, I think he'll do it, and he would be absolutely wonderful. We both think Larma Dacey should show up as Chancellor, but.
Right there. I think we have time for probably one more question.
We saw some pretty big differences from the High Republic books to what we see in the movies. What do we think the galaxy will look like 25,000 years from now when we get to... I know that's a hard question.
Star Wars cavemen.
That's a great question. And like it's kind of always been a joke when KOTOR came out. It's like, oh, things look different, but it's still hyperspace, and it's still everything is kind of functionally the same. But the High Republic has already changed that a bit. So if we jump way back then,
I wonder if we'll see more of the Yoda species from way back then.
They were just the predominant.
A whole
species.
planet of
You're
Grogu's.
just, yeah, that's calm down, calm down.
The planet of the Grogu's. I'm really excited to think about it. I think we're going to see rich civilizations just with different tech, right? I mean, if you even think about the real world and think about like the number of inventions that happened across the world of like different aqueducts and plumbing and all this kind of thing of like different inventions at time and different advanced civilizations. And then for a while, maybe people lose a little at technology. But what I'm excited about is this idea that in order for it to be a conflict, for people to go like, hey, we've all been feeling this force thing. I understand everybody has a different word for it or whatever, but we're going to call it the force. We're going to do things this way. They have to disrupt something. So to me, it's this idea of what are the civilizations going to be? What are they going to believe in? And how is, for it to be a biblical epic, for a Jedi person to basically be like, I'm coming down the mountain with the 10 force rules, there has to be pushback if it's a biblical epic, which means there's a culture that's like, maybe we don't need this, maybe we don't want this, maybe some of us really want this, maybe we want too much. I'm excited for that perspective, and then also I am excited for them to have like, yeah, we have blasters, but you got to light a fuse and it takes 10 minutes. And whatever the technology is an opportunity for awesome world building, and the storytelling's got some rich possibilities.
This is why I love having both of you on, because Joseph will always go into the themes first, and my head's like, wait, can they use hyperspace yet? And then I pulled up my timeline script, and I'm like, okay, yeah, they already had hyperspace by 30,000 BBY, interstellar travel's there, and just like by coincidence, I had it marked down that the literal or figurative Prime Jedi comes around 25,000 BBY, and I'm like, oh, I don't have to change anything, thank God.
There you go.
You gonna take a quick selfie first?
Yeah.
We're gonna take a
we're gonna
room
take a quick
selfie.
selfie, and we got to start wrapping up.
There we go. I got just about everybody in there. Say cheese. Thank you. Okay.
We are going to be doing a meetup at the west entrance, just outside. There's some stairs and a statue. You can't really miss it. But before we do that, please thank Ken and Joseph. And Ken, where can everyone find you in ForceCenter?
Thank you. Thank you. Cheers. Cheers. You can find us on the stairs with you. We'll be out there too. And you can go to Twitter at ForceCenter Pod and link to everything about us there.
Yeah, and you can find me immediately after this panel in the bathroom, because I'm almost done with this beer. After that, on the stairs as well, on that area. Thank you all so much. It's so wonderful to meet you, and thank you all for the kind words and great insights.
Thank you.
Thank you.